Hi everyone, I'm so happy that you're here to join me for the Way of the Animal podcast. Welcome to season 2. I don't think it's any different, so I don't know no, it is. I'm going for year 2, season 2. I think that's interesting. And we kind of touched on it in the last one. We should talk about meditation, but actually we're going to talk about sort of encompass it in other things with talking about self-care.
Yeah.
Because self-care can be hard.
It's probably something I'm not terribly good at.
No, and we were talking in the other one about committing to things and dedicating yourself to things, and something that I find it's really easy to do is let go of anything that's self-care and sort of sacrifice it for whatever else is going on in your life.
Yeah, that's fair. It's easy to put yourself out rather than put yourself first.
Yeah. But something that I found I've been really lucky to have much more time for myself in the last few years, and created quite a morning. I said it's a routine, a morning devotion to myself, and I don't mean all morning. It's just like there's things that I do, and I've noticed that when I don't do them, how much harder the day can be.
Yeah,
because I haven't done them.
I really do like in the morning taking the time just to sort of wake up and just it doesn't even matter the structure of it or anything like that, but just taking the time where it's just about yourself.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and that's something we've done for a long, long time. Like, I can't even remember. No, I don't even remember the time when we weren't doing it.
Yeah.
But we make a morning cup of tea, and we bring it back to bed, and we sit there and we slowly drink our cup of tea in the morning, and nothing happens until that cup of tea's gone.
Yeah.
And I think it just allows you to wake up slower. It gives you more time to wake up before you're having to function. I mean, we have the added bonus of no kids waking us up.
Yeah.
Where you're just like forced to just kind of begin your day with their rhythm and things like that. But I do believe if you devote to yourself, you can find a work around that, even if it does mean, and it's I don't know, like, I can't give anyone advice over this because I don't have kids. I've got dogs, and sometimes they can be very kid-like, but they are a little bit easier, I think. Yes. Is like finding ways to make the time, and it's hard if you've not slept well. Getting up earlier seems like the most ridiculous thing you could do, but I think it helps you start your day in a better way.
We started getting up earlier so that I sort of had a full hour to do whatever in the morning before leaving for work.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Like, it's not ridiculous, but it does mean the alarm goes off at like 5:15 in the morning.
Yeah,
you don't leave till like 6:30, 7:15. Yeah, but that's the routine we have started, is having that time, and I try to incorporate really quality things and energies and feelings and
you suggesting my things aren't quality
into
things?
It. I mean, I no, because that would be judging, and I'm just saying that's what I do. I want to try, and sometimes I want to do more like what you do, where it's just like you kind of get going, but then you distract yourself, or you're watching something to learn something, or but when you actually turn it inward, I've noticed it does help me to start my day in a better vibe.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you do your meditation in the morning, and you do your sort of inward and your self-care and things like that, and mine's very much more just, I feel like it's a time when I don't have anything I have to do or anything I have to think about.
It's like you're not answering to anyone else, or we don't even tend to have any conversations, you
Nope.
know, at that time, because it's like, as much as we're sitting next to each other in the bed, it's our separate time.
Yes, yeah,
You know.
that's it. And I think that's one of the things that I really like about it is
There's no demands, and like I can see how if you have kids, they wake you up, like immediately you're under this pressure to meet their demands, help them do what they, you know, help them to get their day started. And that's where, like, I think it's very easy as well to make it seem like a mountain, you know.
Yes.
An hour seems like a lot. We built up to an hour.
We did.
You know, it's got to the stage now where we make the tea in like a camping mug because it holds the heat for longer.
Yeah.
So that, you know, I do a 20-minute meditation. My tea's still hot.
Yeah.
To drink after the meditation. Whereas, you know, you can actually make it like 5 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. So it's like that. It doesn't need to be big. And I think also, like, I feel like self-care has this thing where it's like almost like a stigma. Like, you can feel like you're feeling selfish by taking care of yourself first.
I know that's something you've mentioned before, and I can see that. I've never thought about self-care as being selfish, but I definitely put self-care at the bottom of the list of priorities.
And, like, I've only learnt to put myself first because I suppose my mental health struggles, like, I notice if I don't dedicate some time to myself to get myself feeling right, then, you know, I'm on the slippery slope at the start of the day. You know, it's just like, you know, if I wake up feeling a little more anxious than usual, then if I don't spend that time just kind of releasing and working through why perhaps I'm feeling more anxious, because quite often it's just something that's inconsequential. It's actually not as important as my anxious feelings thinks, or, you know, it's just like, there's a way to just kind of release some of that so that I can feel better.
I feel like it's maybe you're more in touch with that side of yourself than I am. Maybe I'm more oblivious to it.
That's from devoting time to it as well. Like, I think I feel like I'm preaching, but I'm preaching from a place of, I have spent a lot of my life ignoring how I felt, not realizing how I felt, not being aware of how I felt, and not actually appreciating who I am and looking after myself. So my devotions were to keeping everyone else happy, because my feelings were that if everyone else was happy, then I could be happy.
Yeah.
But, you know, obviously that's completely untrue.
Yeah.
And the happiness starts with you and with looking after yourself. And I think, I forgot what I was going to say, but what was it you said?
That you're more in touch with that side of yourself.
Yeah.
Because for me, I see the appeal of meditation and self-care as a general thing. I see the appeal of it. But I don't know, when I'm just not thinking too deeply about it, I think to myself, well, I don't really know that I
don't need it. Yes.
Yeah. And then if I start thinking about other things, then, you know, and behaviors I have and traits that I have, I'm like, yeah, but there's probably something there. And then I suppose it's that question of do I want to?
Yeah. And then it's like, sometimes with these things with like self-care and devote yourself, and, you know, you create this resistance. We've talked about resistance. You create this resistance to things. And sometimes you have to look at the resistance and be like, okay, so I think it might be beneficial, but I don't know, because I've not really devoted time to it. And there's a couple of thoughts coming through there. There's like that resistance. If you go, well, I'm just going to do it, but I'm resisting, you're not really going to do it.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to commit to it in the same way.
Definitely.
Because you're actually doing it because you're like, there's a sort of clashing of energy with the way you're approaching it.
Yeah.
And then, looking at the resistance of, well, is it, what perhaps is the reason why I'm resisting it? Is it because I'm told it's good for me and therefore I don't need it. I don't need it, so it doesn't need to be good for me.
You're definitely looking at me there because I don't do well being told what to do.
No.
But for me personally, it's not, that doesn't bother me. The being, told it would be good for me.
Yeah.
What I think about, well, honestly, I feel like I don't
need it.
Yeah. But then if you think about things, and I don't know if this is a negative or it isn't a negative, but I like to push myself. Mm-hmm. I like to push myself too far. Mm-hmm. I don't like to back down. I don't like to, if I hurt myself at work or something like that, not serious, but I just keep going. I just ignore it. I just ignore it and just don't stop. And that tends to be the way I deal with things. Now, does that come from some trauma, belief, something in my past? Probably.
Is it like, we're going into it, it's like almost like a session to help you, but is it like a fear of feeling too much?
No, I think it comes and I'm fairly certain on this one, that it comes from being told things like I can't and that's, not good enough, that sort of, that side of things.
So is it almost like then, do you think it's linked to your self-worth?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like you're not worthy of caring for yourself type thing, or
okay, so I don't,
or a different perspective.
So
on
the
that.
pushing myself too far, doesn't come from a self-worth place. It comes from some belief from having been told growing up that wasn't good enough or couldn't do it or something like that.
So you're like, I can't. Yeah.
It's like,
regardless of pain, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're not going to make me stop.
Yeah.
The only way I'm going to stop is if I collapse. I will push myself that far because...
Definitely, I've seen it.
So, now, is it healthy? Maybe not.
Well, I feel like, so, it's that thing, sometimes where you think, well, it's not so important to look at these things or deal with them because I've found my way of dealing with it.
Yeah.
And I was actually, I was talking to my friend about this, and it's so funny these things come up. It's like the conversations you have are very pertinent to the instances of what's going on. And, it's like, I think she was saying, I know how to cope with all the things that come up with me now when I'm triggered and when things happen. I kind of know how to cope and deal. But she was really bravely and incredibly, because it's a really difficult step, this next step from knowing and being aware of where you are to, I would like to be able to fix this. And it's not even like you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. But it's that concept of she would like to be able to help herself to move through whatever triggers come up and what goes on in her life. And sort of, because quite often it tends to be that sort of subconscious, that mental problem of the mind gets triggered and then sort of runs rampant, and getting yourself out of that funk when your mind is like that is really hard. So she's like, well, how do I make it that I can work with my mind and actually make it so that I don't need to cope anymore because I've actually healed the issues that have come through. I forgotten where I was going with this, but it's like, so it's this, with you, it's like, well, I've figured out how to cope with this or work through it or deal with it. Like this is who I am.
Yeah.
This is who I am. But it's like, that doesn't need to define you. And you actually have the opportunity, because you know what's going on a bit, to look into that and heal that part of you that feels that that's what you need to do to prove yourself to whatever, and when you get into self-care, that's where you can spend that time, actually doing something for yourself that would help you to move through that.
Yes. I think you kind of half hit on my thoughts on it. I still don't know if I want to or need to change it, because, and anyone who goes to the gym or runs or does any sort of physical thing, you get a big dopamine hit from pushing yourself that far. So it's like, it's quite a pleasant.
But isn't it interesting? Because I wonder if it came from a stronger place within you. So not from something that was like a trauma response and then it's created whatever that allows you to push through. Whether you would be stronger and better at. So it's like the way it was driven would be a different energy.
Yeah, it could be.
And it would probably make, I feel like it would make you stronger as a person, and your ability to move through things would be like, because it's almost, because when you move through it from a fear from a past response, say, like a fear is not quite the right word, but it will be some sort of fear within you that's creating that feeling, that's creating that drive to do what you're doing in response to something that's happened.
Yeah.
It's like, if you remove that fear, you may just be stronger at moving through.
It's possible.
In a totally different way. It'll just like have a totally different energy. And when you move through it in that way, you probably won't feel as drained and tired after. It'll energize you instead of,
that is entirely possible.
So it's like I found my way to deal with it, and like I have many things like you that are different that I found my way to deal with it. But it's like, okay, but if I'm able to work through what so it's like, I don't need to, but have you explored the idea of actually doing it? Because I don't need to is almost like resisting. It's like, what part of you saying you don't need to?
But so it definitely doesn't come out as a I don't need to. It's more of a, it's like, it's not even a question.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those interesting things, and it's one of the things that I could probably. I think for me, because of the way I process things, that meditation would be quite good, because I could sit and, quotation, meditate on that part of me.
Well, it's like meditation's just inner connection and contemplation,
and try and come up with sort of why and how and everything like that. But again, the instant thought comes to me is it's kind of that, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, but it's not broke, but it is something.
It's definitely something.
Like, that you can work with to.
It's definitely a
elevate
part
yourself into a different way of being.
Behavior, and I suppose it comes to that if you want to.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big one. I don't know if it's with a lot of people, but with me, it's do I feel I need to change this, or I want to change this? And that dictates, because if I wanted...
And is it... Because, like, there's so many reasons why... Sorry, I don't know, I'm just working my way through it. Yeah. There's so many reasons why, so we've come at it from the back end. What about if it's like, do you think it'll change who you are, or how you be in a way that you're unsure about, and that's why you don't want to change it? I know you don't think the same way I do. I know.
I don't think the same way. So it literally doesn't enter my mind. I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of some of the, let's say, darker bits of it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't enter my mind as a thing. Like it's kind of one of those things. It's like I know it's there.
You know it's there, but it's like I don't really need to look at it because I know
it doesn't really bother me.
It's not affecting me in the way.
It's not giving me any hang-ups.
But it's like the interesting thing is, you know, having done a lot of work clearing a lot of things like that, is things that I thought weren't affecting me in a way. Like, and I'm not pushing you. I'm totally not. Yeah, I'm just talking through like my experiences with like having the same thing, but like, well, you know, it's not that bad. And then actually when it's gone, it's like, oh, and it's like a snowball effect over that ripple effect of just kind of, it sort of irons out a lot of things. Mm-hmm. But I'm not like, it may sound like I'm pushing you to do, like, I'm not, like, we've already discussed the fact that if I tell him to do it, he's not going to do it.
The harder you push, the
but
no chance.
I'm not, I just, like, because we work so differently with the way we process, the way we go through our lives, it's like, I'm just, like, it's that curiosity. I'm not wanting to change anything. I don't want you to do anything. I'm just curious, you know, about your processes behind it. Because for me, like, the way my process would be, it would be also, I am really uncomfortable with this thing, but I'm able to deal with it.
Yeah.
And then I'm actually, and I listened to something last night that was really good, and it was, guy was saying, you know, it's not actually the fear of the unknown, it's the fear of, from previous things, what we perceive to be our future.
Okay, yeah.
It's not actually the unknown, it's previous fears creating
you're creating a picture of the future that is scary.
Yeah. So it's not, you know, that...
It's not unknown.
So it's so funny because we've talked about fear of the unknown, but that, when he said that, I was like, yeah, that's so true.
It really is it, because when you think about something that you're a bit fearful of, if the image you make of it is a terrifying, the worst possible, everything goes wrong.
And that's because it's from, you know, your past, you know, you're bringing it with you, dragging it around.
I think with me, it probably, part of it stems from, and I guess this probably goes back to with how I process things, but I'm very sort of mental. It's very much mind for me rather than feeling. And a lot of it has been mind over matter type thing. So I can choose to regulate my body by choosing how to do it. It's like, this is how it will be. So
I'm only giggling because that's something I can't do.
Yeah. But so like the pushing myself harder, the ignoring things that hurt, for me, it's all just flexing that mental muscle of, nope, I can just turn that off and turn this bit up and we're good.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally how I process everything in the world, and how I deal with everything is I turn down the bad things and I turn up the good things. And I enjoy working that. Now, where it originally came from, I don't know, but you know, and that's probably where I come from. And that's probably part of why I don't see a need to change it, and I almost don't want to change it.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy flexing that ability to, nope, I can just
But the
shut that
funniest
down.
thing is, like, you always get an opportunity to flex that ability anyway. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just like...
But I like to create them as well.
Yeah. So why is it then, as humans, as people within our worlds and our society and our family groups and within ourselves, that we don't devote more time to ourselves, or we don't put ourselves first, you know?
There's a lot.
You know, there's that whole thing, like, we're looking at self-care here, but when it comes down to it, you have to have some sort of honor and respect and love for yourself to be able, or to want to devote that time to yourself for self-care, and understanding how important it is. I think you've got something to say, but it's like,
Definitely.
do you know that thing where they talk about, well, there's the plane, they always talk about the plane analogy, whereas you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you can put it on your family, friends, people next to you, whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's you can't pour from an empty cup. Well, hell, you can. You can keep pouring from an empty cup and just keep working yourself into the ground, but it's not healthy for you. And the idea of self-care for me is like, I'm filling up that cup so that I have a greater love and appreciation and energy for those around me.
Yeah.
To pour my cup into.
Yeah, no. I think you've hit a lot of things there, but
yes. Many.
there's the one that you came up with first is some people will see it as being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a mixture of two sides of that.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people who think if I do self-care, I'm being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people who have experienced that, no, I'm taking time for myself, and someone outside of them who probably is jealous because they don't take time for themselves has been like, oh, that's so selfish of you.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of reinforced to that selfish idea. I do think, interestingly, there is probably some part of community and evolution that makes us want to be selfless.
Mm-hmm.
Because for any group, species to thrive that are community-based wild animals, it doesn't matter,
Mm-hmm.
they have to work for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's always the higher-ups and the lower-downs. That's always going to be the case of it. But there is that stronger together and
Mm-hmm.
the help others. So there's probably, I bet you, a bit of evolution, natural
yeah.
genetic
Yeah.
bias towards looking out for the other people.
Yeah. Interesting, isn't it?
Um,
But like a hunter wouldn't go out hunting like without being fit and ready to go out hunting.
yeah, that's
there's
definitely it,
if
yeah.
you think about it, and like self-care now is probably highly different from
yeah,
from a hunter-gatherer perspective of community living and things like that. But there is, they need to be fit, healthy, fed,
yeah,
because they're going to be going for a long time, moving to go hunting and then bring back the thing. So it's like they would still have to look after themselves.
Yes.
But it's like we don't even barely feed ourselves or look after ourselves, nourish ourselves to be able to function within one day.
I mean, yeah, the modern life has skewed all natural processes out of people.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. But I'll bet a lot of them are based in sort of the natural evolution of a species. Because if you think about dogs or things like that, in fact, we've seen it with our dogs, especially when we had a bigger, younger pack of dogs. If another dog picked a fight with one of them, they picked a fight with all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That was always the way. Now, logically, if one of the dogs gets in a fight, well, the other pile of them, they risk less injury to themselves and risk danger to themselves. They just, well, that's fine. They just deal with it themselves. Yeah. But that's not how they see it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not how they react. And you'll see it, wolves, coyotes, the whole outside world, they will band together to deal with threats to their group and not always considering their own personal safety and what's best for themselves. So I think that sort of brings it into people that there's probably a bit where when we became a group, and I'm sure that someone who studies apes and things like that, they'll see it in them, the same sort of thing, that they look out for each other when...
But what's interesting is, like what's come through there, because you're talking about this group, the community, the communal sort of living, and I know communal brings up a lot of cult things in people's mind, but it's not. It's like, it's because people individually out with that find that terrifying, because a group of people that are all in coherence are quite intimidating.
Yeah.
But anyway, beyond that is that they create time together and self-care together.
Yes.
You know, when you think about it with like the indigenous people and things like that, is like, is even like going to church, you know, with the religions and things like that, is that coming together and having ceremony and time where you are kind of almost reflecting, self-reflecting or learning and growing. You're doing it as a communal self-care.
Well, I think that's the thing.
When the loss of connection within our society and we all feel like we're individuals, we've lost that communal self-care. So we're actually having to take care of ourselves individually, which is kind of, like you said, it's like kind of strange for a human to want to do that.
And I think in communities and in well-balanced communities, it is that you help everyone else, but everyone else helps you.
Yeah.
I think it's the balance thing. So, and I've experienced it with groups of friends, groups of work colleagues, and that sort of thing. That people that spend a lot of time together, is you do have those moments. Is everything all right? You know, you check in on them, and that is their self-care time.
Yeah.
You might have instigated their self-care time.
Yeah.
But then, you know, that's how that works. And I think from a community standpoint, that's probably how it should work.
Yeah. And it is. It's like, I feel like almost it's really interesting concept that's coming through is that thought of the way that we seem to move and be in the world now as humans, as individuals. We feel like we're individuals, and that not everyone, like there's not that with everyone, but even within things where you are part of communities or groups, you still feel so individual.
Yep.
And I think we're forgetting that, hey, we're all interconnected, connected with energy, with everything. So we're all interconnected, the whole world. You know, that's why I can feel the turmoil that's going on with the world, because I'm highly sensory.
Yes.
Even though I am not actually looking at the turmoil that's going, like, I'm not reading the news, watching news.
Yep.
I'm just like, I can feel the collective feeling of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, beyond that, it's that idea that, you know, in that interconnectedness, we all kind of work together to create our self-care. And we're now individuals. So
it very much is.
Yeah.
And I think as we're progressing at the moment, self-care is becoming a very individual, private thing. Whereas I think probably it used to be a more open group thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know, in times, like, think just because the turmoil things come up, like in times of turmoil, when the sort of external world to us, our group, our community, or whatever is going on is like in turmoil, the best thing we can do is devote a bit of time to ourselves to make ourselves feel better in whatever way. Like, and it doesn't need to be these ways that we think, you know, everyone's like meditation, journaling, do this, exercise, go out in nature. Like, yeah, they're all good and they're good suggestions, but whatever makes you feel better, you should be devoting time to.
Yep.
Like every day.
So that's like, hey, this is a good one. Hey, that's like me, video games.
Yes, yeah.
I like video games. I like movies too. Video games and movies, both of them kind of fit the same niche for me in that I can switch off. Mm-hmm. And that's the real benefit I get from them.
Yeah. It lets you unwind.
And as you said, I should be playing video games every day.
Yep, it is. But notice though, you're like, oh, I feel bad because I haven't seen you all day, but I would really like to play some video games. It's like, well, great, go, because you've worked hard all day. You go and do something that makes you feel better. And it's like, but I feel like I'm not spending time with it. It's like, no, you go and fill your cup.
Yeah.
I am happy that you're going to go and fill your cup, because then when you come back to me, you're in a different state, you're in a different way of being. And it's like, that's the way we should see it. And we have that feeling like, no, you should devote your time to me right now because I haven't seen you all day. No, I'd rather you came to me with energy where you're happy.
That comes back to the self-care and the, selfish. Yeah,
and like having boundaries. Like, I just need a little bit of me time, and then we can have we time.
That's it. Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. It's really interesting, and self-care, like if we moved away from the meditation, something that makes you feel good, well, that's great. But if you really want to help yourself grow and help yourself feel better from within in a deeper way, then your self-care practice will need to be something that I think helps you with that, you know.
The difference there, although I don't like the wording for this, is there's the self-care, the meditation, the journaling, blah, 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 that is working to improve it.
Yeah.
And then there's the self-care, like pushing yourself too hard, playing video games.
I feel like it's not even working to improve it. It's just working with yourself.
Well, okay. Yeah.
So it's like you've stopped ignoring.
But that's it. But yourself. You're looking into it and you're looking to change it.
Yeah.
Whereas,
or just be with it in a different way. Like sometimes when you're always striving for change and improvement and growth, like it can be too much and you end up just like you're always trying to move where sometimes you need to just be. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something that came up there. I felt like I needed to say, you know.
It's because the way I see it is things like me saying movies, video games, pushing
like
myself
you said,
too
they
far.
Were coping.
It's ways.
Not. I don't think it's coping. I think it's just ways of
coping's not a good word.
Lighting you up because it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
If whatever makes you feel better is lighting you up.
Yes.
Then you're going to have the energy and the vibration and the feeling of being able to share that light with other people. Whereas if you don't lighten yourself up, then you're not going to be able to.
Yeah.
And then there's always this stigma of, well, that's not good for you and that's not good for you. It was like, you know, you've got to understand what actually makes you feel good.
Yes.
And then you can work with that. And it doesn't matter what other people think about what makes you feel good. You know, some people, it's like you were talking about pushing, some people want to go for a real fast run and really push themselves and come back with that ecstasy of, I did that.
Yeah.
That makes them feel good.
Yeah.
Some people, if you said, go for a really hard, fast run, that'll make you feel better. I'll be like, no way. That's not going to make me feel better. But actually, if I do something that takes me out of my mental state that I'm in by playing a video game and just lets me be how I am, then that's gonna it's like we always go back to it, but a lot of this is awareness and knowing yourself.
Knowing what works for you.
But
you have to be that little bit switched on to the healthy, not healthy.
You have to know, like, okay, if like you're not feeling great and you're constantly looking on Facebook or social media on your phone, scrolling through YouTube videos. Like I am literally speaking to myself right now. Don't talk about it. Like distracting yourself because you don't feel good and you don't know how to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
Well, know the signs of that.
Yeah.
And then work out how you can help yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
And that's the challenge because getting out of distracting yourself from that is hard. Yeah.
And like for me, video games, I can see how that could very easily become an avoidance technique.
Oh yeah. 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 Or actually, for a lot of people it's overstimulating.
Yeah.
I've played some games and I got completely distracted by it. And then we've played for hours, which is quite uncommon for me to want to do some of that, but we play for hours and then I'm like, I stop. I actually don't feel good. Yeah. And it's just because it's just been too much for my system.
Yeah.
And it's like understanding, do you feel better or do you feel worse? Yeah. And like the distracting from how you're feeling, like I said, that's like a real sign that, okay, I'm just using external things to distract me from how I'm really feeling. And actually, if I just sat down and I don't even need to meditate, whatever, just actually feel how I'm feeling and help myself to feel better, whether that is going and getting help from a therapist or whatever, or you just need to speak to a friend or your mom or your husband, or you just need to go out for a walk and just let it go, just like knowing why you're doing what you're doing and is it actually helping you as well. I don't know, it's just understanding yourself.
It's interesting because there's a lot of different ways for self-care.
Like I said, it's just that you need to know yourself. And you need to know what is for you and what isn't for you. You know what I like is I like the what lights you up.
Yes. Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah.
And from this conversation, I hadn't thought about it a lot, but the community idea of it is interesting. And as I think about it, it's funny because I remember a run of adverts. I can't remember what it was on, but about, asking people if they're okay.
Yeah.
I was like, geez, now I think about it, how weird is that you have to be reminded to check if, the person is okay or not?
That's because it's so easy. It's like I was talking about in the previous podcast about my friend. We were both in a funk, but it's like you don't ask because you're too busy in your own world, freaking out about your own stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
That sometimes it's hard to notice that someone else is also struggling too.
Yeah,
There's that, and then there's this sort of life is just a distraction sometimes, and you just don't know. It's just like it's really easy to get caught up in your own world and not see the bigger picture of who's around you and how they're doing and things. It's like we get caught up in our own suffering and we don't realize that other people are too.
Yeah.
Well, so we call it there. I think. Well, we did talk about self-care, but it's really interesting. I didn't know where it was going to go, but it was a really interesting way of coming at it from all different angles there about, self-care and the self almost. We talked more about the self than self-care.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a lot more about the drivers for it than actually, this is how you self-care.
Well, I don't think I could tell anyone how to self-care. The way you self-care is knowing what self needs.
Yes.
And, the challenge with that is knowing what you need and it not being what, what they talk about, the ego, what you perceive as what you think you need. It's actually knowing yourself from within and knowing what you need.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
Well, thank you for joining me. That was so interesting.
That was.